LoreWarrior vehicles. Cellco Ranger UPU-3000. Although hardly the most advanced or sophisticated of its kind in today's market, Quick-Sell Company's Cellco Ranger is arguably the most common example of the typical heavy law enforcement vehicle, with many variants of its design being a common sight on the streets of major cities throughout Lyran space and beyond. Originally designed as an armoured personnel carrier for use in urban combat environments, the current incarnation of the Ranger, the UPU-3000, first surfaced during the closing years of the Third Succession War. But while the design was remarkable for its use of less advanced technology than commonly available to military units of the day, making the UPU, also known as the Urban Pacification Unit, nominally easier to maintain in the scavenger culture that dominated the Innisphere at the time, these features failed to override the vehicle's somewhat higher cost and its inherent weaknesses compared to military-grade APCs of the time, at least in the eyes of the LCAF quartermasters. The Ranger thus quickly became a staple, not of the LCAF, but for various police agencies throughout the Commonwealth. Light, but comparatively slow, the Ranger isn't powered for pursuit, but for containment of trouble spots within dense urban areas. Its well-armoured hide does protect its cargo of up to 7 SWAT troops in full riot gear against small arms and most support-grade weaponry, and can even repel most light military-grade weapons with ease. Lacking any onboard fire control systems, the Ranger's weapons, which is typically a turreted support machine gun and 2 liquid sprayers, hard-mounted front and rear, for crowd control, have to be aimed and operated manually by the vehicle's crew. Unfortunately, the Ranger's cramped interior is designed for only 3 crewmen, a driver, a communications officer, and a gunner in the vehicle's turret blister, which means that the vehicle's passengers must man the spray cannons as necessary, aiming these crowd control weapons with little more aid than the limited field of vision that their armoured viewport will offer. Despite the drawbacks, this has led to its failure as an APC for the military. The Ranger's basic design has proven to be most effective for highly trained law enforcement units and corporate security forces throughout Lyran and FedSun space. Modified versions of this vehicle have been used as armoured cars and even mobile command centres for various corporate and security agencies throughout the former FedCom states. Similar vehicles abound in other realms as well. Some of the best known include the venerable Chiha CCV, the 24-ton Combine-produced equivalent with design roots dating back to the Age of War, the Capella-made Urban Enforcer 4, or the more sophisticated Raptor RRV. The Raptor is a more advanced Free Worlds favourite that's lighter and less heavily armoured than the Ranger, but features an extended range support laser with basic fire control systems, a roomier passenger bay, and space for extra field gear like communications and heavy support weaponry. So yeah, we've got a little police vehicle this time for you. It's the Cellco Ranger. It's a 3 and 5 on movement, which, yeah, it's equivalent to like a top-end heavy mech in its movement profile. It has armour of 38, which equates to 11 on the front, 7 on the sides, 7 on the rear, and 6 on the turret, which, fits for what it would be expected to be dealing with, which is obviously civilian rioters and maybe, obviously, civilians who are armed with just rifles and stuff, not dealing with any mechs. It has the machine gun located in the turret with about 100 rounds of ammunition, as in 100 rounds of gameplay, and the 2 sprayers, and ammo for those sprayers weighing in at 0.86 of a ton. Crew of 3, 2 and a gunner, with the infantry compartment is weighing about a ton and a rear door. It has an armoured chassis and control modification, 3 hand searchlights weighing 15 kg, 2 at the front, 1 on the turret, and its ammo is treated as liquid cargo storage. It's a nice little vehicle. It expands that sort of widened sort of narrative of Battletech's universe, the kind of things that you would now expect to see in more heavily patrolled police state type areas, things like in the Capellan Confederation, for instance, or the Draconis Combine, or worlds where they may deem that more necessary. I imagine you would see the Draconis version of this vehicle in what would be a lot of the Razelhag space, for instance, when that was still part of the Combine. So I imagine you would have seen quite a few of these things in systems that were still a bit unruly. As I said, the Capellan space and probably on like the fringes of some areas of the Commonwealth as well, but also within some of the areas of Commonwealth space, like Federation Sky and stuff like that. But places that were always on, just on the cusp of having some kind of uprising to try and break away. But it's a nice little vehicle. It's one of those things that you could easily slot in for a role-playing game session of BattleTech, or MechWarrior, as it's supposed to be called, where, yes, the players may travel in one of these things, they may gain access to them, but it's also useful as well if you're just running something like a mercenary company and you're taking garrison contracts. These are cheap alternatives to buying an APC. These are the kind of things that you can rock up in with your merc company, buy a whole bunch of them, and yeah, you've got small teams that can deploy in different areas, especially if you're running a campaign where the players are maybe running their merc company and these are the kind of assets that they might be able to purchase in system, and then they may have to deal with a campaign that you set up that doesn't always necessarily involve stomping around in mechs, where you may have to be coordinating with different groups and deploying troops, gear like that. Players role-playing as different parts of their merc company, liaising with obviously their mercenary contact, with planetary officials, being able to talk with local law enforcement or militia, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's some interesting parts of that, and the vehicle itself, the art looks nice. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I do like that, but I think I've rabbited on long enough about that. I will catch you on the next one, as always. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.